Welcome to episode 68 of Driver Seat Blog Radio. As always, I'm your host, David G. Firestone. I've got a few news stories that I've been meaning to cover, but I haven't gotten around to it. And we're going to cover them this week, and then I'm going to be more timely with my news stories from here on out. Now, our first news story is about Chevrolet. Now, I've been wanting to do this story, but I've also been holding back because I wanted to see if something about this story would change, but it hasn't. It was announced that starting in early 2024, January to be exact, Chevy is ending production of the 6th generation Camaro. And Chevy has stated that although this generation is ending, this is not the end of the Camaro's story. Now, it's been stated by many, and many have theorized that if the Camaro is revived, it wouldn't be an internal combustion engine, but rather electric. Now, how does this affect NASCAR? Well, NASCAR runs the Camaro in both of its national series, and according to a tweet from Bob Pockrass, quote, Chevy would still be allowed to use the Camaro in 2024 if it chooses to do so because it will be in production until in 2024, and the rule is the production vehicle must be sold during the race season. Now, the argument can be made that the Camaro went production before the race season starts, but I guess it's a calendar year thing. And what Chevrolet will eventually run in NASCAR to replace the Camaro is TBD TBA, to be decided, to be announced. So let's say NASCAR and Chevy cancel the Camaro. Let's say Chevy cancels the Camaro because NASCAR doesn't really have a say in the matter. I get what they're trying to do because the sales numbers are low. But here's my question. What are they going to replace it with? The only other car that they make that they could really run in NASCAR is the Malibu. And compared to the Camaro, that would be a huge downgrade. It's a downgrade in both appearance and performance from the Camaro. I mean, we all know Chevy's dedicated to NASCAR. I mean, because Kyle Busch won at Talladega, you're seeing a Chevy on screen right now. But this is a move that could potentially seriously damage their NASCAR program and could maybe destroy it. I have a feeling the Camaro may be making a recovery sometime soon. But right now, Chevy's future NASCAR program is uncertain, and I'm going to be honest, I'll be interested to see what happens moving forward. So we have another NASCAR story that I've been sort of just keeping in the pipeline, so to speak, because this was announced and I haven't really gotten around to it yet. Now, anyone who understands the history of stock car racing, not just NASCAR, but stock car racing in general, knows that moonshine basically created the sport. For those of you who don't know, according to Wikipedia, quote, moonshine is high-proof liquor, generally whiskey, traditionally made or at least distributed illegally. Its clandestine distribution is known as bootlegging. The name was derived from a tradition of creating alcohol during the nighttime, thereby avoiding detection. In the first decades of the 21st century, commercial distilleries have adopted the term for its outlaw cachet and begun producing their own illegally sanctioned novelty moonshine, including many flavored varieties that in some sense continue the tradition, generally having a similar method and or location of production. So, end quote. So, during Prohibition era in the United States, people wanted booze, but since it was illegal to make or sell, companies and individuals illegally made their own booze to consume, as I mentioned above. Now, to transport this and to avoid detection, bootleggers would take a showroom stock car, give it a more powerful engine, and other modifications to make the cars powerful but appear normal to the naked eye, and this took place primarily in rural areas. If they were pulled over by the cops, the bootlegger would drive away and escape arrest. Now, as guys with souped-up cars are wont to do, they would get to bragging to each other about their cars, and of course, guys being guys, would race each other to see who had the fastest car. These races oftentimes attracted viewers, and eventually County Fair and other promoters figured out that people would love to pay to watch this, so organized stock car racing began. In 1948, NASCAR was founded, and the rest is history, as they say. Now, as mentioned above, in recent years, moonshine has had some mainstream releases from real distilleries. I took a tour of FEW Spirits in Evanston, Illinois, my hometown, a few years ago, and they had a smoky variant of the moonshine that I was able to try. I was a fan of Cherry Junior Johnson's Midnight Moon, but most of the stores in my area stopped selling it for whatever reason. So I found out, and I was interested when it was announced that NASCAR and Gatlinburg, Tennessee-based Sugarlands Distillery announced that NASCAR is going to be getting their own brand of moonshine. To quote Ned Vickers, Sugarland president and founder, quote, "Moonshine and NASCAR go hand in hand, both born from a spirit of rebellion and ingenuity. We have a deep appreciation and respect for motorsports due to their deep-rooted history. Moonshine shares with NASCAR. It's an honor to help them commemorate this significant milestone by producing a 75th anniversary moonshine." Now, there are actually 3 different variants, and I'm going to read these as they are written on the Sugarland's own website. So the first recipe is Bristol. Quote, Sugarland Distilling Company combines speed and shine by celebrating 60 years of racing at Bristol Motor Speedway with this limited edition corn whiskey. It's a traditional unaged whiskey reminiscent of the spirits bootlegged throughout Appalachia with a crisp, clean, sweet corn flavor. It also has this little add-on. Be sure to purchase your today at our downtown Gatlinburg distillery. The Bristol Motor Speedway Collector's Edition was distilled in late 2020 as a small batch and will not be available again. This product is only available at local retailers in Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, Indiana, South Carolina, Louisiana, and Florida. Okay. Now, they didn't want for Daytona. Quote, Sugarland Shines celebrates the world's fastest and finest, the Daytona International Speedway, with this limited edition corn whiskey. It's a traditional unaged whiskey reminiscent of the spirits bootlegged throughout Appalachia with a crisp, clean, sweet corn flavor. I'm beginning to think that these are all the same thing, because based on the descriptions. But then there's one for Talladega, quote, Sugarland Distilling Company celebrating 50 years of speed at Talladega Super Speedway with the release of a limited edition corn whiskey. This traditional unaged corn whiskey is reminiscent of the spirits bootlegged with Appalachia with a crisp, clean, sweet corn flavor. This unaged whiskey takes you back to a simpler time. Now, I think the Daytona and or Talladega recipe may be available in my area, and I may try some. I'm not going to commit to that. I'm certainly not traveling for the Bristol recipe. No, thank you. Now, I think this is a good move. I think it's a good move. It's bootlegging, whether your views on it are good or bad, did help bring NASCAR and stock car racing into existence. But you've had moonshine around for some time now. Why is it only now? Why is there only an official partnership now? If anything, I thought that it would have been Junior Johnson's Midnight Moon, which, even though the stores in my area don't sell it, it's still available. That would have been perfect. Junior Johnson and NASCAR are very... One is known for the other, and the other is known for one. Why didn't it happen? And again, what sense does it make that it didn't happen? We'll probably never know. So those are my NASCAR news stories that I've been wanting to catch up on. I'm going to catch up on some IndyCar shenanigans in the next break, so I'll be right back. Welcome back. For our second segment, I'll discuss a few non-NASCAR racing news stories. First, we have some sad news out of the NHRA which broke this week. Bandimere Speedway, located outside of Denver, Colorado, plans to close after the 2023 season. The Bandemir family, who owns and operates the speedway, said in a news release that they are selling the property and surrounding land, which is in an area that is seeking more residential development. In a statement, the Bandemir family said, quote, "Our family has been proactive over the years. Hold on. Our family has been proactive over the past several years in an effort to locate another possible location where a new facility can be established. Much is the same in 1956. The opportunity for development and operating a multi-use facility with drag racing as its primary focus provides an exciting possibility for our family, one which will also provide the potential to make meaningful contribution to the community wherever it may be." Now, I'm going to say this. I think a lot of drag racing fans agree with me on this. We're getting worried, and I think we have every reason to be worried. The NHRA has a smaller fan base, but they're very, very dedicated, and they're very worried, and they have every reason to be because we've lost some major strips in the last few years, and there could be more on the horizon. I mean, you've lost Houston, you've lost at least one other national event holding track. There have been issues with holding races at Panoma. Many other drag strips are on properties that could be easily redeveloped. And if the money isn't there, they get sold. Excuse me. You don't have as many people who are involved in drag racing as much these days. And drag racing is an American institution. Its very existence is in danger. But sadly, there really isn't a clear solution. We need to support our local drag strips. We need to keep our local drag strips. We need to support our local drag strips as much as we can. We need to do everything possible to keep these drag strips in existence. Now we get to some other news. And you know what? I was going to do another story in addition to this, but I'm so mad about this, I'm going to do this story by itself. We moved to IndyCar, and we're going to discuss the social media firestorm that happened after the Grand Prix of Long Beach. It's been a long day. So this is a sum up of the on-track events that started the whole thing. This is, by the way, from a fan-cited article by Asher Fair, link in the description. Quote, Juncos Hollinger Racing's Callum Ilott, ILOTT, entered the third race of his second full IndyCar season, sitting in 7th place in the point standings, as only one of 6 drivers to finish in the top 10 of both of the season's first 2 races. Okay, that's impressive. But it was a weekend to forget for the 24-year-old British driver on the streets of Long Beach, California, beginning with a practice shunt due to a miscommunication on IndyCar's part, and culminating with a 19th-place finish and a drop to an 11th-place tie in the standings. But it didn't all end with the checkered flag. So, basically the facts are that he was involved in a chaotic restart on lap 26 of the 85-lap race around the 11-turn 1.968 mile temporary street circuit. He came out of the pits ahead of rookie teammate Agustin Canapio. And so Canapio was leading. This is according to a tweet by Nathan Brown, link in the description. Canapio was leading. Ilott comes out of the pits. He stacks things up. Campano gets into Kirkwood, allowing Newgarden to take the lead. Pato tries to drive on the inside of turn 8 on Kirkwood and spins into the tires. Ericsson taps Pato from behind. Now, I don't think there was any ill intent meant with this. It's just one of these things where I don't think anybody really did anything intentionally wrong. It's just one of these things. It's racing. It happens. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you know that I've come down on various groups for toxic fan behavior. And believe me, some people have taken offense to it. But I've never had to mention IndyCar fans because they aren't really known for it. Sure, you might have every fan base has its crazies, every fan base has its wackos. We're not disputing that. but it's it's fair to say that IndyCar tends to have a lot of very level-headed fans who don't engage in the toxic behavior. And I think to a certain extent that's true with this story as well. This incident and all the death threats and anger that was being levied at drivers prompted IndyCar to release a statement via Twitter the day after the race at 8:45 p.m. Chicago time. And I'm going to read this tweet in its entirety. Over the last 24 hours, some of our drivers have been the target of disrespectful and inappropriate online abuse. There is no place for this behavior in our sport. While fierce competition and rivalry will always be a mainstay of IndyCar racing, it's important to showcase and celebrate those attributes with ultimate respect and concern for the well-being of our competitors. IndyCar is a community that should always strive to build upward with support and appreciation for one another. The fact that IndyCar had to put, end quote. The fact that IndyCar had to put this tweet well over 24 hours after the race is over says a lot about what was going on social media during that time. This is not a good look for the fans at all, and I get why the drivers in IndyCar are upset. Death threats will never end well. The authorities will find you, and should the target want to press charges, it will cost you a lot of money and you will spend time in jail. And this is all over a bad mistake in an IndyCar race. Good move, guys. Good move. Now I'm going to say something to fans, not just IndyCar fans, but sports fans in general. Sometimes in life, you have to eat your own. Sometimes in life, you have to kick somebody out of the fandom for the betterment of the fandom as a whole. These toxic fans who are sending death threats should be banned from IndyCar's fandom. And I know that IndyCar doesn't have a huge fan base to begin with, but you got to get rid of these guys, because I promise you, these are the ones who are going to fuck it up for everything else. Everyone else is going to get fucked over because of these guys. I can promise you that. Do I think... Again, you're not entitled to be a fan of IndyCar. Being a fan of something is a privilege. If you're going to use social media to abuse that privilege, you shouldn't be allowed to be a fan. I think, wrestling has been dealing with this for a while. You've had online harassment and bullies. I think every celebrity has had to deal with this, but fan bases need to kick the toxic fans out. It's just that simple. I've heard horror stories from the years about celebrities, and especially wrestling, because their fans are psycho. And I'm going to be honest here, we might have to start. I think IndyCar needs to set up a banned fan list where all drivers and teams are blocking them on social media. NASCAR has to do it too, fine. Wrestling should have done this a long time ago. I don't know why they haven't. But this toxic behavior needs to stop. Now. And with that, we're going to take our second break, and I'll discuss a story that has some similarities to the IndyCar story, and I'll be right back. Well, so for our final segment on this week's podcast, I have to discuss this story because I heard about it at the same time as the IndyCar story, and this is why death threats are never a good idea. Now, I've come down on things like quiet quitting and minimalist Mondays or whatever it's called, and how people approach work in general. But I'm saying these things the way I am because I don't want you to make a stupid mistake that can get you fired. And also, a huge part of my reasoning is that I am a big, big fan of not giving people the rope they need to hang you with. Because most companies this day and age will hang you even if you don't give them rope. So don't give them rope and they won't hang you with it. I read this story and it just boggles my mind. Because the whole death threat thing is even dumber if you actually are known to those who you are threatening, because the punishment is usually worse because they will press charges, as one woman from New York is finding out the hard way. So this particular brain genius decided that she did not want to go to work on Saturday at Buffalo Wild Wings. So rather than just calling in sick, as some of us tend to do, she sent Google Voice text messages to people threatening to shoot up the New Rochelle location of Buffalo Wild Wings. The New Rochelle Police Department received 2 calls on April 15th, 2023 from individuals who had received these text messages. One of these messages stated that there would be a quote-unquote massacre and quote-unquote lots of people going down. Another text messages stated that today is a busy night because of the game. Don't take me as a joke. Lots of people will die. Don't call the store and ruin my plans. I'm going to make the news. Which seems like a pretty good reason to call the police, but... And another person got a call from somebody. Another call came in from somebody who received an identical text message from an unknown person, basically saying the same thing as the previous 2 messages. Now, the police took these threats very seriously, and the citizens cooperated as they should have. Utilizing IP address backtracing, the FBI arrested the woman who had recently been hired by Buffalo Wild Wings and gave the apartment that the IP was traced back to on her application. Now again, she had called in sick and sent these messages on April 15, 2023. She was arrested, waived her Miranda rights, and admitted to authorities that she phoned in the hoax, and now she faces 5 years in prison for the threats. Way to go, honey. Way to go. Look, I get that you don't like work. Very few, if any, people do. But you sent threatening text messages? Why? It's a federal offense, and I hate to break it to you, but the feds do not screw around. Plea deal or not, she's going to go to prison. That's for sure. But what she doesn't realize is that she's even more screwed than just her time in prison, which will hamper her future employment significantly. She handed every potential future employer she has rope they need to hang her with. And she doesn't even realize it. I don't feel bad for her because she made her own bed, now she has to sleep in it. You have people who have never done anything wrong in their lives, who are working jobs and who are losing their jobs because mass layoffs are hitting the business world. But that's the way it is. Mass layoffs are going to happen. So when there are jobs that are available, do you think that this idiot stands a chance? Jobs are going to be a bit more tough to come by, and more talented people are going to be available. So companies are always going to take the best available at every opportunity. That's just the way it goes. And think about it like this. If you had 2 identical twin sisters coming in and applying for a job, one has a college degree, years of experience, and a clean record across the board, the other sister has a GED and a lengthy rap sheet, and they're both applying for the same job, who do you think is going to get the job? Doesn't take a genius to figure this one out. In life, you are your own worst enemy sometimes. You are your own worst enemy. There are some people out there who are in dire straits through no fault of their own. They get cancer, they get hit by a drunk driver, something, they get into an accident at work. Those people I feel bad for. For this idiot, she dug her own grave and now she gets to lie in it. She pissed the bed, now she's got to sleep in it. What did she think was going to happen here? How did she see this ending? I never understand the logic of using the internet to send threats because the authorities are smarter than you. The authorities have more resources than you do. I don't care if you're a first grade dropout or a Harvard valedictorian. No matter how smart you think you are, the authorities are smarter than you, and they will figure you out, and you will get in a lot of trouble. But there's something else. Now, I live in Illinois. I have a job that has a decent amount of security and that I'm good at it, and I do like what I do. But I live in Illinois. Illinois is what's known as an at-will state, which means I choose to work, and having a job is not a right in the state of Illinois. Though New York has a few lesser restrictions than Illinois does, it's still an at-will state. You are by no stretch of the imagination in at-will states, which are comprised like 35 states in the Union. You're not guaranteed a job. And the more stupid stuff you as a person do, the worse chance you have at getting a good job. I am no different from anyone else. I've done some dumb things over the years. I've gotten fired from a few places for being an idiot. I know I'm never getting, I'm never being hired CEO for anything. I'm probably never getting another office job for the rest of my life. And you know what? I don't blame anybody but myself. But as I said, you're your own worst enemy in life. And I guarantee you, this is the kind of woman who is not going to be able to accept accountability. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. She'll never be able to get a job, and it's everyone else's fault. I've seen this before, and it didn't surprise me then, doesn't surprise me now. And as I said, you're your own worst enemy in life, and doing shit like this makes your life worse, not mine. And with that, the 68th episode of Driver Seat Plug Radio comes to an end. I'm going to be giggling next week considering the number. I'm Dave Farsley. Like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you next week.